In September 2016, Wells Fargo was fined $185 million for illegal sales practices that included opening as many as 2 million accounts for customers without their knowledge, which benefited Wells Fargo's CEO by more than $200 million in his personal holdings of the company stock. Wells Fargo Chair and CEO John Stumpf appeared before the Senate Banking Committee to discuss his company's settlement with federal officials.
So when investors saw good cross-sell numbers, they did while this scam was going on. That was very good for you personally, wasn't it, Mr. Stumpf? Do you know how much money, how much value your stock holdings in Wells Fargo gained while this scam was underway?
Well, first of all, it was not a scam, and cross-sell is a way of deepening relationships.
Over the last century, the U.S. stock market has been impacted by repeated financial crises. Each time a financial crisis occurs, the federal government vows to fix the problem.
This is an extraordinary period for America's economy. Over the past few weeks, many Americans have felt anxiety about their finances and their future. I understand their worry and their frustration. We've seen triple-digit swings in the stock market. We are in the midst of a serious financial crisis, and the federal government is responding with decisive action.
Despite their efforts to regulate, the federal government has not been able to eliminate crises from occurring, and future downturns are inevitable. While consumer trust should be the cornerstone of our financial system, in truth, profits are all too often the driving force behind financial transactions, including investment recommendations in the stock market. Self-dealing is often the root cause of financial crises and stock market crashes. Ordinary investors are often those who suffer the greatest losses.
Filing bankruptcy really hurt me really bad because I had lost all of my money through an investment that I thought was going to give me a return so that I would pay off the bills. And instead, I lost all of my money, and now I owed people money. And what that did for me was to make me file bankruptcy. And that was hurting. That was, excuse me, it just, that got me, I'm sorry. But anyway, going through that was rough. It was very rough because it made me lose faith in a lot of things. It changed my life quite a bit.
Most Americans hire financial professionals that they trust to invest their money. During the 2008 financial crisis, investors lost over $6 trillion in the stock market. And much of that loss was attributed to bad investment recommendations by financial advisors. Victims' lives were changed forever.
When I first learned that I didn't have enough money to live the rest of my life, I was worried, I was anxious, and I would get tearful. I was tearful, and I did not know what to do because I felt abandoned by a trusted friend. I felt betrayed.
Investors are often steered into bad investments because the financial advisors are paid more to sell them. Virtually all legal disputes are resolved between brokerage firms and their customers in FINRA arbitration. Between January 2009 to December 2012, 21,845 customer complaints were filed seeking to hold their financial advisors responsible for bad investment advice. Breach of fiduciary duty or self-dealing is the most common type of complaint made by investors. If you assume $6 trillion in stock market losses in the 2008 Great Recession, only one case was filed for every $275 million in investment losses. Why don't more investors attempt to hold their financial advisors accountable for bad investment advice? Reason 1. Investors blame themselves for following the bad and conflicted financial advice.
Based in my experience from the thousands of investors that I have spoken with, I would say that there are probably hundreds of thousands of claims that could have been brought and should have been brought that weren't brought.
It's amazing. There are people that have literally had their life savings stolen. And I don't mean unsuitable investment recommendations. I mean actually stolen, and they just never come forward.
Almost every client, maybe 95+% of the clients that I've seen, come in and they say, I can't believe I let this happen to me. I think that there are a lot of investors that are reluctant to come forward because they blame themselves. And the thing about it is they're not to blame.
If I had a nickel for every time an investor said, I feel so stupid, or this is my fault, or I should have caught this, I could retire. When they found out that they had stolen from, they all said we should have caught it, and we should have figured this out. And Wall Street spends millions and millions and millions of dollars a year telling people to trust their financial advisor.
Reason 2. Wall Street spends millions a year on advertisements to cultivate their clients' trust and allegiance.
Advertisements are really the first step in building a relationship between a stockbroker or financial advisor and his or her client. They're wanting to express themselves as experts so that the client relies on them and serves as a foundation for trust between the investor and his or her stockbroker.
Advertisements for the financial services industry are focused on only one topic, in my opinion, and that topic is trust. They want their customers to put their full faith, confidence, and trust into the advice of the financial advisor. And so that's what the advertisements are created to do, to cause a person to put their full faith and trust in the client.
Wall Street firms also give their financial advisors important marketing titles to gain customers' trust.
I would say in the financial services industry, there is an array of titles that are totally and absolutely misleading. Some of them are Vice President Investments, Senior Vice President Director, Executive Vice President. I can tell you that all of these titles have to do with their marketing and sales prowess and nothing to do with their role in the corporation that they work for. So in that sense, all of these titles are just mere puffery. They don't mean anything except to convince you to trust the person that you're speaking to and give them your money.
Well, with respect to the designation of vice president, at least at the larger brokerage firms, there aren't very many people that I run into that aren't vice presidents. Everybody's a vice president, and I would say that that is absolutely meaningless.
Reason 3. Many investors lack knowledge that they have legal rights to receive prudent investment recommendations and advice.
You know, people, the general public, they don't know a lot about investing. They don't know a lot about what they're buying, whether it be stocks or bonds, what's appropriate for an individual investor. And what a financial advisor is supposed to do is supposed to recommend suitable investments, recommend appropriate investments for their customers.
Stockbrokers have an obligation at a bare minimum to make recommendations that are suitable for a client based on the client's investment objective, their risk tolerance, their tax needs, and other issues that are unique to them.
If you've lost money and you feel as though, boy, the market went down, you call your financial advisor and you say, why am I losing money? This is not what I want. And they tell you to just stay the course. It indicates that the investment's not in line with what your risk tolerance is.
Virtually all disputes are resolved in FINRA arbitration, the securities industry's private arbitration forum. Investors are not generally permitted to pursue their case in a court before a jury of their peers.
Most clients don't remember this, but buried real deep in the new account agreement, it says if you want to sue your broker for anything, be it fraud or negligence, it has to be done in the FINRA Arbitration Forum. FINRA is a trade group that runs the arbitration process.
Arbitration is fundamentally different than court is. You don't have a judge and a jury. You don't have people who are necessarily situated as you are, who maybe have shared the same life experience as you have.
Director Cordray, do you think forced arbitration clauses make it easier for big banks to cover up patterns of abusive conduct, including the years of misconduct by Wells Fargo in this case?
I do think so, yes.
Because FINRA arbitrations are private and have special rules, investors who suspect that they have a problem should seek out an attorney that represents investors in FINRA arbitration.
It's really important to find an attorney that has experience in the securities arbitration forum.
Well, here's the dichotomy. You trusted your broker. You had reason to trust your broker. Most brokers should be trusted. They're professional people, and they're responsible people. But you've lost money, and you believe it is because of the broker's conduct. So you go up on the internet, you find a number of attorneys who specialize in this area, and those attorneys now are saying, trust me. But you have a reason to trust an attorney. The attorney-client privilege means that you can talk about that conversation with anybody, but I can't, we can't. Code of ethics prohibit us to, unless we're authorized to. And why is that so? So that at a very early stage we can evaluate the merits of a case.
I think everybody should realize that it's not your fault. It's not. So just by us speaking up, us trying to, or myself trying to move in the direction of stopping some of these people from doing this, I think it helps.
We have real worries. We have had real losses, and it has impacted us significantly for the rest of our life. And it was important that the politicians in Washington know that it's not just me. There's millions of us out there that and somebody had to say something. And I would say it again, and every time I'm asked, I will be glad to say something.
We need your help to protect our nation's most vulnerable who are being preyed on by the unscrupulous. Help fund research and other public awareness campaigns to help prevent financial exploitation in the future. For more information, visit www.investintruth.org.